Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. It's the Ukraine War news update, second part thereof for the 13th of May 2024. This is a military aid video and equipment video where I don't have an awful lot of content to fill out this whole video, so I'd normally add on the geopolitical stuff. But actually there's some few bits and pieces that have come out that are pertinent to my previous video on hits and losses, and a couple of bits in analysis that I really want to add in. So here goes. Okay, first it's that a Russian FAB or some Russian FAB 500 bombs, so the guided glide bombs, fell again in the Belgorod region. So officially the authorities have not reported the fall of the ammunition, but locals are reporting en masse that the shell fell from a passing airplane. A Russian aerial bomb that fell at night in a village of Razumnoye probably did not detonate, buried under the asphalt in a parking lot between houses. The second one exploded a few dozen meters away from the first, but 8 hours later. Now, what is interesting here is that yesterday we had an explosion at a building, a big residential block in Belgorod. Looks like it was an internal explosion. There are some theories it could have been an explosion coming in from behind. It might have been something like a Russian missile or bomb going awry. Well, we have had this an awful lot of times. In other words, there is good inductive reasoning. There's form with the Russians here to think that actually that's more plausible than the Ukrainians striking that building with their own missile, which actually is virtually impossible given the visual evidence. But as Anton Gerashenko says, yet another serial bomb has been dropped in Russian Belgorod region, the 33rd case in 2.5 months. Last night, a FAB was dropped in a parking lot in the village. Another bomb exploded a few dozen meters from the first one, but with an 8-hour gap. Russia has dropped 5 bombs on Belgorod region in the last 4 days. So in March, April and May alone, the Russian Federation dropped at least 33 FABs on Russian and occupied Ukrainian regions. On May the 4th, 7 people were injured because of an FAB 500 dropped on Belgorod. Just they keep doing this. It's just, and then that's possibly what's behind that explosion there that did cause quite a few deaths and injuries, but it almost certainly was not a Ukrainian missile. The question is, was it an explosion inside from some kind of false flag? Was it a gas explosion from faulty gas mains or something, or was it indeed a Russian accidental bombing of their own place? The news is just filtering through of a Russian Ka-2052 attack helicopter being destroyed near Avdiivka. This is the first time we've seen one of these taken down for a long time now, actually, but they are still using them, and this is good news. It shows that the Ukrainians probably do have man pads or certainly air defenses of some variety in that area. There was in the Avdiivka area, I think a Su-27 shot down the other day. I think it's a Su-27 anyway, or Su-25 actually. Now we're going to say more about the Shoigu movement. So the former defense minister has moved to be head of Security Council, and then Bulasov has moved in. Now this is, I think, so I said it signifies that things aren't going well in the prosecution of the war. You don't fix things that ain't broke. So moving Shoigu, I think, is a sign of how things are going badly. The flip side of that, or the problem with that, is that it means that they're likely to improve. And Daramasco says Shoigu is out as defense minister, moving into head of Security Council. Andrei Bulasov, an economist, is taking over. My quick thoughts on what this means for the MOD and what to look out for concerning possible changes in the near term. So first, Shoigu is moving into a respectable and powerful position because he is loyal, and he and Putin are friends. It's a signal that Putin listens to chatter and understands that Shoigu needed to lead the MOD, where he was just tolerated by his ministry and other agencies. Belousov has no military experience, nor did Shoigu, interestingly, at all, or background in the military. He's an economist. This will raise questions within the military who will fear a repeat of Serdyukov. So I anticipate some uniformed officer favourites appointed to leadership positions to balance this. Normally I'd say that Gerasimov will be replaced soon, but he is in the overall commander of the war. I still think he will be replaced, which is typical. Peskov said he will stay. No decisions to change have been made yet, so an unintentional indicator of change. I think Gerasimov is not very well, and I think he's almost certainly going to get changed. Is Belousov a multi-year defense minister? My gut reaction that I will keep updating, I would say no. This looks to me like a move shorter in duration that will be followed by house clearing, a couple of deputy defense ministers, some organizational changes and auditing. I have to note that a person with this kind of financial background and with no organizational ties to or priors is helpful for making major changes to the defense economy to reconstitute the force post-war. Well, I think that's a problem now, actually, for the Ukrainians, as in this is possibly a savvy move because the Ukrainians are doing good things with regard to the industrial military complex, integrating that into the state or the state working with private entities, as well as the Ukroboronprom as a state military industrial concern, working to really react to battlefield needs and innovate on the battlefield. Well, that Russia is moving this guy in is, I think, seeking to level up that asymmetry. And this is possibly a bit of a warning for Ukraine here. Anyway, with Shoigu out, she says, some individual fortunes can improve for favourites like Dyumin, Surovikin, Teplinsky, maybe a few other people, popular op group commanders too. With Shoigu out, they can be elevated or brought back into the defence fold somewhere. In sum, Shoigu gets a respectable way out. The new defence minister will probably make organisational changes. Too soon to tell if he's a placeholder for a post-war minister. And watch Gerasimov. Now, someone else says, Jakub Janovsky says, this makes him, so that is Belousov, potentially much more dangerous opponent if the MOD system doesn't sabotage his work than Shoigu. A lot will depend on if he will be able to replace other senior MOD officials and the extent of his decision-making powers. So Max Seddon says, Belousov, quote, Belousov won't pretend to lead the army like a general with all these medals. He's a worker. So if you remember, Shoigu's got all those medals, but actually none of those medals pertain to fighting in the war. He's not a military man. Was he not in the emergency services? And so all those medals are like decorative, mean pretty much nothing. This man is not that kind of guy. He's a workaholic, he's a technocrat, he's very honest, and Putin knows him very well, is the claim here. So this could be a little bit of a challenge to Ukrainians. Moving on to military aid and equipment, there's not too much to say. Antony Blinken on the timing of military aid to Ukraine. We are doing our best. We are not going anywhere. Quote, only this week we withdrew about $400 million for defense supplies to Ukraine from the supplemental budget. So this is further to that aid package with Bradleys and M113s and HARM missiles and HIMARS missiles and a HIMARS system, I think. This is another one that they are due to create. So we are doing everything possible to provide the assistance as soon as possible. The Europeans are doing the same, Blinken said. So, some good news there. Now, Colby Badwire, if you were listening to my Tochny appearance last night, appearance on the Tochny channel, lots of good conversation. Colby talked about interviewing the owner of Rochelle that produces the Senator kind of armored, I don't know what you call them, infantry mobility vehicles. They used to be kind of the security vans used in banking and whatnot. They've been adapted to the military, and then they've got different variants like a medical one and blah blah blah. Anyway, let's just drop into this. There are many examples of lackluster support for Ukraine, but Canada's Rochelle defense isn't one of them. They have delivered 1,000 armored vehicles to Ukraine and counting. This is a thread of highlights from my exclusive interview with Rochelle CEO Roman Shimonov. Please read the entire interview linked below. I wondered where it was. So we'll just dip into some of the highlights. In 2022, they delivered 70 Senator APCs to Ukraine on an urgent requirement contract from the Czech Ministry of Defense in under 3 months, ahead of schedule. So it's not something you hear about often with military contractors and concerns. A stark contrast to other companies taking years to fulfill orders. Rochelle is running 3 shifts to meet demand. So effectively, they're on a war footing, if you like. The success of Senator on the battlefields of Ukraine has earned them both additional contracts to support the Ukrainian armed forces and for other customers around the world, with orders from Canada, USA, Costa Rica, Bosnia, Israel, South Korea, and others. Their success has certainly been noticed here in Canada as well, and they are optimistic market there will grow considerably with domestic orders. They submitted a bid to the Canadian Forces Light Utility Vehicle Procurement Program and anticipate hearing results soon. The Centre is currently produced in 4 configurations. APC, so that's Armoured Personnel Carrier, ERV, MRAP, so I presume that's like a reconnaissance vehicle, MRAP, so they're mine resistant ambush protection vehicle, and pickup. They also have a new medical evacuation variant and are looking for donors to place orders for it on Ukraine's behalf. Additional variants, including demining, are also in development. Russia currently has 4 facilities in Ontario and is actively planning expansion to both the United States and Europe. They're in the final stages of evaluating several different states for their expansion south of the border. The expansion to Europe includes plans for facilities in both Germany and Ukraine. They already have repair workshops in Ukraine and are in the final planning stages for the localization of some production in the country. Russia currently employs over 200 Ukrainian refugees. I think Romanov is himself of Ukrainian descent, or his wife certainly is, or one of the two. But anyway, Russia has lots of other big plans for the future too. They're working on a fully electric vehicle, which I expect will be geared towards the civilian market, but EVs certainly have future potential in the defense sector. They're also developing an 8x8 vehicle. What really sets Russia apart, though, is that they do everything in-house. Aside from the Ford chassis they build the Senator on, they have no subcontractors. They buy raw materials and fully construct the vehicles themselves. That's pretty incredible, actually. This significantly reduces supply chain delays. Wow. Our conversation Roman provided very detailed answers, so I'll again encourage you to read our conversation in full. From just these highlights, I'm sure you can see that Russia has a lot of very exciting stuff going on, which will surely be of benefit to Ukraine and interest to many others. Really good stuff that from that company. Now, talking about mobilization and recruitment, quote, and this is from Rustem Umerov, the defense minister: the position of drivers, mechanics and drone operators are in the greatest demand in the recruiting centers of the MOD. So this is good. Like, if you don't want to go and put your body on a line right on the front line, there are many other positions that you can take in the Russian armed forces, drivers, mechanics and drone operators being high in demand. And convicted Ukrainians will be mobilized into the army and will serve in special units. However, the decision on mobilization will depend not only on the prisoner, according to the spokesman of the Ministry of Defense, Dmytro Lazutkin. So not only on the prisoner, so there could be some forced mobilization. The decision to mobilize a particular convict will depend not only on his personal desire and the nature of the crime, but also on the conclusion of the Criminal Investigation Department, the court's decision, and the willingness of the commander to accept such a person for service in his unit. In other words, they could be forced mobilized, depending on how they might be deemed to react. Lazutkin clarified that not all convicts can be mobilized into the army due to certain restrictions. These restrictions apply to individuals who have been convicted of crimes, including those against Ukraine's national security, intentional killing of multiple individuals. I talked about this the other day. So I think you can have like a single murderer, but if you kill more than one person, then you're out. So it's quite a low threshold there. Crimes against sexual freedom, terrorism-related offences, fatal drunk driving incidents, murder or attempted murder of law enforcement or military personnel, and severe corruption crimes. So interesting that you can murder one person, but drink driving is not on. So yeah, interesting. There must be rationale behind that, of course. I wonder what it is. Anyway, that's enough for the... I might see if I've got time to throw in the geopolitical stuff to this video. No, I'll keep that slightly separate. It probably won't be too long, but I'll do that as a separate video. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. Take care. Speak soon.